Salute to all the Patreon members. Want to thank you guys for your support. It really means a lot to me. All the new viewers, all the subscribers, thank you. Check out the links in the description box below for the Patreon page. Let's continue. So I'm late to this. Apparently this came out about 2 weeks ago. And people were saying that Ayesha Curry once again embarrassed herself. You know, she embarrassed Steph Curry again. And I'm like, how did I miss this? And then once I typed it in, I saw enough people talking about it. I saw MTR talking about it. I didn't find out until this morning about this, and it was from Reva. All right. She made a video talking about how Ayesha Curry embarrassed Steph. And I'm like, well, let me watch the entire interview. It was about an hour and 4 minutes. You know, there was a couple commercial breaks in between. So I'm like, in total was about 55 minutes, an hour. So I'm like, let me listen to it. So when I listened to it in its entirety, I'm like, she didn't really say anything that embarrassed him at all. It's just people are taking different clips and you're not really, you have to watch the interview in its entirety, number one. Number two, Ayesha Curry's Canadian. All right. Canadian women, and I've talked about this before on this channel. I've been talking about this for years. They are most of them, they are very, 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 very honest. Okay. They will tell you what's on their mind. And it doesn't mean that, and it's not like most of them will deliver it in a harsh way. Some of them will. All right. But whatever's on their mind, they'll say it and they'll express it. All right. And sometimes their thoughts can get jumbled and it could come across wrong. And it's like they didn't mean to say it that way. Sometimes they did mean to say it that way. But Ayesha Curry, I can tell even just by looking at both, you know, her and Steph in public on her social media page, I can tell, like, you know, this person that she's married to is more than just her husband. Like, this is her best friend. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't. Now, if she was American doing all of this, then I would really call it out. But I know Canadian women. Canadian women, they cannot help themselves. Like, they have to say anything and everything that's on their mind, right? So sometimes they can seem a bit of an airhead. And, you know, she's a 5 life path. So she's, you know, she has a bit of ADHD, you know, and she has an entrepreneurial spirit. And, you know, sometimes what, you know, people with that 8 energy, they think about money a lot, right? And they think about, you know, how can I make a lane for myself? So I'm going to play these clips, but I'm going to say what was said a little bit before and a little bit after and how some of these clips are taken out of context. All right, I got about 3 clips. Let me play this one.
Just never thought that he would like someone like me. I just didn't think it was going to be a thing. I thought we would be friends. Yeah.
Did you ever have anything in high school at all, or it was legit just friends?
No, just friends. Just friends.
Okay, so this is one of the clips that's going viral that's taken out of context because Ayesha, like I said, her thoughts and her brain is kind of scrambled a little bit. But so this can sound bad, and then somebody who didn't listen to the entire interview, they'll say, okay, damn, she didn't like him at all in high school until he got drafted. Now all of a sudden they're together again. But I'm going to tell you what she said later on in the interview. Hold on.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. Of like, you never saw him as something, but I'm like, when you look back, Is there any memory that you're like, maybe there was something or no?
No, never. I in the beginning,
see, there was a cut. Hold on.
Hated it so much. I did not sign up for that. I also always thought
so that edit right there made it seem like the marriage was too much. I didn't sign up for marriage, and she wasn't even talking about marriage. Hold on.
I didn't know that he was going to end up playing basketball. He said he wanted to be a high school basketball coach. I thought I was going to be like the girl out there getting it. So I didn't know.
Okay, so let me break this down. Hold on.
Just never thought that someone like me, I just didn't think it was going to be a thing. I thought we would be friends. Yeah.
Did you ever have anything in high school at all, or it was legit just friends?
No, just friends. Just friends.
Okay, but hold on. I don't want her eyes to be closed.
I get what you're saying. You never saw.
No, just friends.
Okay, so if you listen to the interview in its entirety, she then says no, I literally had a crush on this guy the entire time in high school, because she didn't move to North Carolina until she was 14, and then she graduated early from high school, I guess at 16 or probably around 16, to go pursue an acting career in LA with I think she was doing commercials and television shows. I know she did an episode of Hannah Montana and stuff like that. So she was trying to get it. She was hustling really hard, working 3 jobs in LA, to pursue an acting career. But she had moved to North Carolina when she was 14. So she was probably only around him for 2 or 3 years. And they went to high school with each other. Then they went to church with each other. And so at her church, she said that Steph was the shit. All the girls wanted him at the church. All right. So her whole life, hoes have been throwing themselves at Steph. And then they went to the same school also. So they saw each other at church and at school. And her friends, she had a friend that liked Seth, his brother. And she made a phone call to Steph so that her friend could speak to Seth. They're all conversating over the phone, and there was talks about there was somebody mentioned something about Canada, and she was like, oh, okay, I'm Canadian. He was just like, oh, for real? He was like, do you like Canadian candy? She was like, do you like Canadian candy? And she says, I love Canadian candy. So he was like, I really like Canadian candy too. So what she did was, I guess her uncle came back from Canada, but while he was up there, she asked him, when you come down, can you bring this type of candy from Canada down here to North Carolina, because I want to give it to a friend. And she said she was friends with Steph, but the reason why she was friends is because she was really, really nervous. She was very, very shy. She was very, very nervous. She was scared to talk to somebody that she really, really liked. And then she went back to the church, saw him, and she was like, this is how nervous I was. And she was like, I literally walked up to him, gave him the box of candy. I didn't even say anything. And I turned around and walked off, and people saw me do that. And so the interview was asking her, why would you do that? Or I forgot what she asked. And Ayesha said she was just like, I was really, really nervous. I was really, really shy. And we were 15 years old at the time. And she was like, asking her to explain more, was there some sort of crush or whatever? She was like, hell yeah. She was like, I had a huge crush on him in high school. And she was talking about how good he looked to her and stuff like that. So it's like she says this right here, but then again, she said no, I really, really had a crush on this man, even when we were in high school. it was like I was just too shy to say anything to him, but I didn't know that he liked me like that. That's why I was just friends, because I was too shy. I didn't think it would go anywhere. And there were a whole bunch of other girls that liked him also. So it was kind of like, she didn't know that she would be the one later on. You feel me? So this people are blowing this up on the internet and taking it out of context. Hold on, I got another video. I'm going to play this one and I'm going to break it down. You got to watch it. And the podcast is called Call Her Daddy. No shade to the channel, but it's like they have 1.68 million subscribers. This interview has 538,000 views, but there's only 3,000 likes and 206 comments. So I find that kind of interesting. I find that very suspicious, but let me play this.
4 kids. Did you always knew you wanted a big family?
No. So I didn't want kids. I didn't want to get married. I thought I was going to be career girl and that's it. And I had my eyes set on my goals. And I was never the little girl that like dreamt about the wedding dress and all of that. And then it happened so early in my life. So it's like, it's one of those things like you don't know what you actually don't know what you want.
Well, it's so interesting you say that, because I want to talk a lot about that today, because I relate to you in that way. Like, I really, really never thought I was going to get married. I'm like, there is actually no way that's ever going to happen. And then it happens and you're like, maybe I didn't know myself that well. And it's like, no, you knew yourself when you were young.
Yeah.
So right here, her Canadian citizenship kicked in a little bit, right? It's like I'm being very, very honest, and she's taking her mind back to a place when she moved to LA, right? Because she moved to LA when she was right after high school. I think she was like 17 or 18 or something like that. And, to pursue acting and stuff like that. But her and Steph hadn't even gone out on a date yet. Her and Steph, if you listen to the interview, they didn't go out on a date until she moved to Anaheim, California. All right. And Steph hit her up on Facebook asking her, like, are you still in Cali? And he was like, and she said, yes, I am. And he was like, I'm going to be out there soon. Because I think at this time, he was in college. What school did he go to? I remember his initials were like DC or something like that. What was that college he went to? Davidson, that's right. Davidson Wildcats in North Carolina. So he's playing in North Carolina. I think he had a game or whatever, or he had to be out there in LA for something, for a game or and she was working so much. She was just like, now this is something that a lot of guys go through, because she's saying this is something that, a lot of guys, like when you pull up in somebody's city and you feel like they don't make time for you, it kind of upsets you. And then this woman said that, I had a huge crush on him, but I was just very, very shy at the time. She was like, I had no experience. I'm assuming that Steph is the only guy she's ever been with in life. I think like body count is only on one. This is another Tia Mowry right here, right? No experience with other guys at all. She was just very shy, and she was focused on being a creator and career driven at a very young age. I guess hoping that love would find her one day. And I guess it kind of did. But then when Steph asked her, are you still in LA? She said yes. And he was like, I'm going to be there on this day. And she was like, remember she had 3 different jobs that she was working in order to pay the rent, and then she was doing her acting thing with different agencies on the side also. She was just like, the time that you're coming over here, I don't think I'll have time at all. It's just my schedule is just booked. But hit me up next time when you come over here. And he was like, yeah, I'll be out there in 2 weeks. I'll be out here on this day, and then 2 weeks after that, I'm gonna be out there again. And she was like, all right, cool. So then 2 weeks later, when he came back again, that's when they went on a date. And she talks about a date and how memorable it was. And, then the interviewer asked her, did y'all have a kiss on that first date? She said, no, I was really, really shy. But then she talks about the first time that they kissed, but it was like around, no. I'll take that back. No, yeah. They didn't kiss on that date, but then she had to go back home because she was very, very sick. She got laryngitis and she got scared. So she went back home to North Carolina. Then he hit her up talking about, well, I'm home in North Carolina. And then he went to go see her and stuff like that. So this isn't a malicious woman in my book based off of this interview. All right. Or maybe she was watching her words, because in the beginning of the interview, she's like, yeah, I hope I don't get myself in trouble again off my words. But the way they're editing these videos and painting her out to be, you can tell they did not watch the interview in its entirety, and they don't know Canadian women. Canadian women, they just say whatever's on their mind, and they put their foot in their mouth all the fucking time. All right, they cannot help it. It doesn't mean they're malicious, but I can see why people get upset about some of the things she says. But remember, there's not a lot of Canadian women that people in America have experienced enough to be able to give a full assessment. That's why they're kind of painting her to be an American woman. And it's kind of like, as an American woman, you know better than to do and say stuff like that about your man. But I get it. She's Canadian. That's why I give her somewhat of a pass. Let me play this again.
4 kids. Did you always knew you wanted a big family?
No. So I didn't want kids. I didn't want to get married. I thought I was going to be career girl. And
see, she's taking her mind back to the time when she moved to LA. Right? But when you have women like this who have this personality, and just somebody like Steph Curry, only somebody like Steph Curry could put this woman in a position to fulfill her dreams. You see what I'm saying? They later on talk about how she got into cooking, and in the beginning, a lot of people didn't even take her seriously because I'll just say woman of color, because I've never heard her or Steph even say that they were black, right? I don't know who her parents are. They might, her parents, it might be a mixed family. It's a lot of interracial mixtures going on in Canada. So I don't know what exactly she identifies. We'll just say woman of color. She said that there wasn't women that looked like her in the business. She was too young and nobody took her seriously. And it ended up only being one woman who gave her a chance, and now her life has changed. But only somebody like Steph Curry, in my opinion, could be able to put her in position to fulfill some of her dreams and her goals. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't think if she was with somebody as talented and successful as a Steph Curry, I think she would have been just single out here, 36 years old. I think she'd be out here 36 years old, probably no kids. I don't want to put the single mother jacket on her because she is Canadian. Some women, you'll see women this pretty with no kids from Canada, right? Especially if they are quote unquote woman of color. But, feminism in Canada, it's like people talk about feminism in America, and Canadian women is like, man, hold my drink and let me show you how it's done. You know what I'm saying? So that mindset is heavy up there, but you could tell this is a woman who wanted a bag. This is a woman who wanted to get to it, and love kind of changed the course of her life. But I think that the problem with her is she doesn't really see the big picture, because Steph is about to retire very soon. I think Steph, this might be his last year, or next year might be his last year. I don't think he's going to be playing ball after 38. And that's kind of your time to shine, right? You've already had some shine, but you're basking in your husband's success because he's still active in hooping, right? He's still breaking records and doing things that nobody has ever seen before in basketball. That's why his shine outshines what you're doing on certain television networks with cooking and stuff like that. You'll get your shine, but some women, they don't think like that, right? They're so emotional and they're caught up in, their emotions sometimes, and they have self-doubt. It's kind of like, you don't understand that, man, your time is coming, and it might come when Steph retires. I think she will shine brighter, and then she'll be the entertainer. She'll have that household name, once Steph retires. Now, you'll always be Steph Curry's wife. People say your name. It's not like they say Steph Curry's wife. They say Ayesha. And we all know who we're talking about when we say Ayesha. But her time will come. It's just Steph has to retire first. And women with that 1 or that 8 energy in their birthday, you have to understand numerology in order to be able to see yourself in a relationship with that person. Okay, I know this woman has this energy in her birthday. I know this is how she started out before we got together. So in order to complement her personality, that energy in her birthday, this is what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? And hold on, let me play another video. The interviewer, she kind of threw up some, she did kind of throw up some she did kind of throw up some, like, individualistic, strong and independent feminist questions her way, and she answered it truthfully, right? One of the questions was like, how do you feel about people saying, like, oh, you only in this position in your career with the cooking network and everything because of Steph Curry's success and knowing who your husband is? I forgot the answer that she gave. It wasn't, I think it was just like, whatever, this is, then the third. I don't remember. I don't want to say that she said it's not entirely true. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. I don't want to put that on her. But like, there wasn't really anything in the interview that made me raise an eyebrow like that. Like, if you watch the whole thing, hold on.
I in the beginning hated it so much. I did not sign up.
No, you see, this right here. You could tell this guy right here did not watch the interview. So right here it says Ayesha Curry hated life with Steph Curry, didn't want to be married. That's not the answer that she gave right here. Had nothing to do with being married to Steph Curry. The answer right here was the interviewer asked her, okay, so now Steph is in the league. He's a star on the team. How do you feel now? What were you experiencing being in the limelight now as his wife, going to games and supporting him. And she said, I hated it because like I just wasn't used to that. And then, you know, basketball wives, people are hyper focused on our looks. And she was like, I was a little bit pudgier at the time, and people called me SpongeBob's mom. People said I looked like SpongeBob's mom. Right? That's what she was saying right here. It had nothing to do. See, they cut it and edited it a certain way to say that she didn't want to be married to him and I hated being married to him. No, that wasn't, that's not why she answered that. She said like people were calling her a lot of names, being mean, hyper focused on her looks, and then the attention, and then she told a story about how like the fans, she was like, the fans are crazy. She was like, one time we were getting in the car and then a lady that's like a fan of Steph, you know, that watches basketball, opened the door. Just a random woman opened the door to look in the car and be like, yeah, I just wanted to come here and look at Steph and look at the kids. I wanted to see the kids. They didn't even know who this woman was. She was just a fan. And Ayesha said like, man, what the fuck? Are you serious right now? And the woman told her, oh, honey, you know what you signed up for when you married him, and then closed the door on her. And then she said she started crying because of that. All right. So that's what she was saying. So let's continue.
For that, I didn't want kids. I didn't.
See, they did an edit again. They did an edit. She didn't say I didn't want kids right after I didn't sign up for this. But if you didn't watch the interview, you would assume that she is confessing how in the beginning I didn't want to be with Steph. I hated being married and this, that, and the third. Very manipulative media. I don't like it at all. Look at the edit.
I didn't
want kids. She had her hands together right here answering. Now look at the change. This was in two totally different parts of the interview. All right.
Want kids. I didn't want to get married. I thought I was going to be career girl and that's it. I didn't know
another edit.
End up playing basketball. Like he said he wanted to be a high school basketball coach. Like I thought I was gonna be like the girl out there getting it. So I didn't know. I just didn't think it was.
See, and the thing is that part where she was like, I didn't know I thought he was gonna be a basketball coach. The question she asked her, right there was what was it? She asked her about, you know, were you aware of his fame in high school? And she was just like, not really. I didn't pay much attention to it because she wasn't really into sports. Like she wasn't into sports like that. She didn't know anything. Like the only thing she knew was Doug Flutie because of, I guess she had an uncle in the household who was like obsessed with Doug Flutie and from the Buffalo Bills. But other than that, she was like, I didn't know anything. All right. But they weren't together in high school. She had a crush on him. She was the super shy chick who had a crush on him. And they didn't even really go on a date or confess that they even liked each other until after both of them graduated. You see what I'm saying? So she wasn't going to his games or anything because they weren't together. But let's continue.
You weren't a friend group.
Friends. Yeah.
Did you ever have anything in high school at all, or it was legit just friends?
No, just friends. Just friends. Yeah.
I get what you're saying of like you never saw him as something, but I'm like, when you look back, is there any memory that you're like, maybe there was something or
no? Never.
Imagine being.
You see, and then later on, she goes on to say how she had a huge crush on him, but she was too shy to say anything to him in high school. So they were just friends and they went to the same church. And I think she was only really around him for like 2 years because she graduated early, right? So it's I'm gonna be honest, like,
Four
has she said some Canadian bonehead shit? Yes. Yes, she has. She has. But if you talk to anybody who's American that's spent a good amount of time in Canada, or they've dated a Canadian woman, or they've been with Canadian women, traveled to Canada before, they will tell you exactly what I'm saying. It's the people who've never been to Canada that don't understand why some of the things she said in the past, and it's bonehead shit to do. I get it. It is. It's very self-centered, and I can't even explain it to you. I remember when Steph Curry, they won the playoffs. They lost to, who did they lose against? Was it the Raptors? Who did they lose? I forgot what year that was when they lost, but that was the same year she got up on the Red Table Talk and she told Jada Pinkett Smith, and she was sitting there with Steph's mom, talking about, like, Steph, he's always getting hit on. I'm paraphrasing what she said. Steph is always getting hit on. Nobody, I never seem to get that kind of male attention. It's not that I want it, but it's like, it'll be nice to know that somebody's looking at me too. And was that bonehead shit to say? Yeah, it was. But that's that Canadian shit, right? Y'all wouldn't understand. Trust me. Canadian women, they feel like it's a rite of passage for them to say whatever it is on their mind. But if you kind of say whatever it is on your mind that upsets them, they'll never speak to you again. There's been a couple of women where, like, if I would have never said anything and agreed with everything they said, I would have got some pussy. But it wasn't even me disagreeing what they said. It was kind of like I took things a little bit too. I remember one time, I'll never forget. There was this in Calgary. There was this one chick. She lived on the south side. And we met up. We went to a park. Everything was nice. And, holding hands, kicking cans. She all over me. Huge titties, right? Slim, cute little glasses. And I remember, for whatever reason, I started talking about single mothers. She had no kids, by the way. And I'm talking about, there's a difference between single mothers who got sons and single mothers who got girls. The single mothers with daughters, they neglect them a lot and really treat them like shit. But, single mothers with boys, they tend to treat them like their boyfriend almost. They dress them up a certain way. It's like they a son husband to them. And she didn't like that I said that, but she didn't express that right then and there. So when we parted ways, I'm like, all right, we still good for tomorrow night? She was like, yeah. And then tomorrow night came around, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna come through. And she was just like, yeah, on second thought, I don't think we should meet. I'm like, man, for what? Just some of the things you said yesterday was kind of disturbing. You know what I'm saying? So that's who Canadian women are. They'll say whatever it is on their mind. They don't really feel like it's disturbing until you kind of break it down to them what they said. And then when you say certain things that are on your mind, which more than likely is the truth, they don't like it. It dries them up. It dries them. And like, on second thought, I was gonna give you some pussy, but after you said some real shit yesterday, I don't want to fuck you. You're like, damn, it didn't even have nothing to do with you. yeah, but still, it's like, like, damn. So, that's who they are. But if you can stomach watching through this interview, it's only an hour. Put it on 1.5 speed. It'll only be 45 minutes. Right? You can shave off 15 minutes of this, but I'm not saying she doesn't deserve the negative criticism for the things she said in the past. Because in the beginning, remember, she started off wagging her finger at women. She was wagging her finger at ratchet women and come out, keep your clothes on, your body is sacred, posing half naked on the internet, knowing you got a man at home. It's kind of like that should only be for your man. Really, your body should only be for your husband, not for the public to see. And women went in on her, talking shit about her. And men were trying our best to protect her. But then, the red table talk came out. Then that shit you did on The View was seen around the world when them little shirtless waiters serving drinks came out and you was acting thirsty for them. And then then you was in the kitchen cooking, busting it open in that one picture. And it looked good, don't get me wrong. But I give her, I don't go as hard on Ayesha as American women because I know she's Canadian, right? But what do I see on Instagram? I see I see people who look like they're best friends together still taking pictures with each other on the internet. It seemed like, they still madly in love. She still cooks for her family, even though they got money, right? They got money. It seemed like, and it might not be every night, but from time to time, she still cooks for her family. So, this is a lot better happy ending than Halle Berry, right? So, man, look, I give Ayesha Curry a pass for this interview, right? But I still kind of give her a pass for being Canadian. All right. I still kind of give her. See, when a Canadian woman likes you, they're obsessed with. When they like you, they're obsessed with you. They. I've only ever had one American woman who kind of showed the same strong level of interest in the beginning of a relationship as a Canadian woman does. I've only ever had that once in America. All right. But other than that, man, when a Canadian woman likes you, they are beyond thirsty for you when they like you. Right. But these clips were edited and cut in a way that made her look bad. Anyways, I'm over them out. You guys take care. Peace.